Hey guys, Ron here, and I'm sure you've seen the videos in which I made evolutions to Pokemon like Girafarig and Carbink, and now we're going to continue with 5 more. Make sure to check the previous one if you haven't, and let me know if you want part 4, for Pokemon like Skarmory for instance. Just keep in mind that everybody has a different idea as to what they want their Girafarig or Chatot evolution to look like, so don't set your expectations too high, cause my interpretation of these Pokemon won't be exactly like yours, especially since all of them will be part of my own fan-made region, Ason. A bunch of the Pokemon I've made over the past 2 years are part of it, and I'm also going to be making evolutions to regional forms I made in my type swap videos, just like how Galar has Obstagoon and Sirfetch'd. But let's begin with an evolution for Kecleon. I've always thought Kecleon looked like a pre-evolved Pokemon, and I think it's time it had an evolution that was way more practical in battle, extremely colorful, and maybe also a bit more chaotic and entertaining. I'm going to take inspiration from all sorts of chameleons, like the horns of a Jackson's chameleon and the huge crest of a veiled chameleon. I may even throw in a bit of Cheshire Cat in there too, because I want it to be as mischievous as one. Let's go! I'm going to start with the proportions. It's going to slouch a bit more than Kecleon. Honestly, I'm making it the opposite of Inteleon. It's a bit chunky and far from suave. Bulging eyes and a large crest, but let's make sure it doesn't look like Kermit the Frog. Horns and spikes to accentuate its lizardness, and eyes that look in different directions. I tried to give it a third nose horn, but it ain't happening. 2 is enough. I really want to make sure it smiles, so this is it. As you can tell, it has buff forearms. It uses them to bash enemies when it pops out of nowhere. Just refining the edges. Curly chameleon tail, nothing new. I want it to be a bit more dragony, making it look like a force to be reckoned with. It's not small anymore, obviously. Patterns are going to be tricky. I want to make sure that they look natural, but also try not to add too many details. It's a Pokemon, so less is more. I gotta remember that during this entire pattern placing process. Color time! It's basically a more colorful and saturated Kecleon. There is one key part missing though, the lips. I originally didn't want them, but that was a lapse of judgment because it looks pretty good now. And there you go. Kecleon evolves into the normal psychic type, Psycholeon, when leveling up after learning the new move, Strobe Surge, a psychic type move where it rapidly changes color and releases a beam of light with the chance of confusing the opponent. It has 60 base power and is always stab. The name Psycholeon comes from psychic and psychedelic and psychopath. Like Kecleon, this Pokemon changes its colors to hide in its surrounding in order to catch prey. If the prey seemingly catches onto its disguise, it will appear out of hiding and flash its alternating colors, stunning its prey, allowing it to finish it off with its long tongue. The horns on its head release colorful beams of light that can overwhelm opponents and even change the color of whatever it hits. It can see in all directions, so it's constantly looking for others to attack. It likes toying with people by surprising them or making their objects float as if they're possessed. They are able to change into the ideal type of their surroundings in order to regulate their body temperature. Here's its shiny. I honestly prefer its shiny, but the normal color scheme makes more sense. Its ability is a new version of Protean called Pigmentation, with the hidden ability, Mimicry. I'm very proud of how it turned out. It has crazy colors without looking too cluttered and detailed. It looks like an actual Pokemon to me, which I don't always say to my own creations. It looks fun and definitely a Pokemon I'd consider using in the Ason region. Chameleons are found in the Middle East, so it's right at home. In my last type swap video, we made an ice type Furret. I gave it a collar and a white coat, and now I'm gonna give it a full-on fur coat, scarf, and hat. I'm gonna take inspiration from various traditional and modern winter gear, but try to make sure it doesn't look like a Furret with clothes on. I asked you guys if Furret's evolution should be longer or thicker, and most of you wanted a 10-foot tall boy, so I'm gonna do it. Here's a long winding noodle body first, nothing too crazy about its limbs, a scarf and a hat and some wing-like ears, both to indicate that it can hop really high and lives in high altitudes, but also because it looks like the wings on the helmet of a Valkyrie. Its patterns are now crystal whiskers, and its hat will look a bit like an Ushanka, those Russian winter hats that you may be familiar with. I gave it eyes that are pretty close to an Evolution's eyes. Thought that would make it more lovable, but its face is a bit too tiny, so I made that thing a little bigger. I want to get rid of those eyes because I don't want it to look like an Evolution. I refined the hat and ears, but now it just looks like it's wearing a hat. So I made it a bit more vague. It's almost like a crown now, because this thing is pretty noble. It was hunted by royalty in the old days. The rest of its body is fairly simple, almost like the body of an Asonian Furret. The eyes were tricky. They won't be done until the end, but this is good for now. I decided that the scarf should actually look like a knot instead of random protruding flesh feelers. I was pretty adamant at this point that all Pokemon in the Centrant line should be missing a nose, so I took the nose away, but gave it back in the final product. It just doesn't look right without a nose. And now I'm trying my hardest to give it a mask-like pattern that ferrets have, just so its face isn't too similar to Furret. At some point I thought that the pattern could look like snow goggles, but nah, I gave it ice crystals for buttons on its fur coat, and finished the scarf and tail. Finally combined the hat with its head so it looks like a ball of fur on top of the head, and after much experimentation settled with this fine design for its face pattern, and colors are pretty straightforward. And here they are. Asonian Furret evolves into Barrett when leveled up in Hail. From Ferret, Burr, because it's cold, but also because it sounds like beret, and this Pokemon has a little hat. The hat on Barrett actually protects its head from intense hail. Its hat and scarf also work like antennae. It's able to sense changes in temperature miles away. This allows it to anticipate snowstorms, hot weather, and even incoming fire-type moves. Its thick coat is extremely dynamic. It's relatively hydrophobic, so melted snow doesn't soak it, and it's able to easily slide through sheets of snow. It's able to swim through snow and even collapse the tunnels it creates with its tail, as to not leave a trail leading to its hiding spot. It stores food in its scarf, and is able to preserve its favorite meals for years by instantly freezing them. Other Pokemon, and even collectors, envy its extreme length. When stretched, the average Barrett is 10 feet tall, or 3 meters. It uses its height to intimidate the fiercest of opponents. It can even use its body like a spring. Jumping 100 feet into the air is not an uncommon ability among Barrett. Here's the shiny. It has the ability Fur Coat and Snow Cloak with the hidden ability Slush Rush. I think this is a worthy evolution for the popular Pokemon that is Furret. At first I was worried that it won't live up to expectations, but I'm really happy with the final product. So I did enjoy the fact that Diancie was a powerful and rare mutation of Carbink, and I think Minior should get the same treatment. I want to make an alien-like being that is inspired by Japanese series like Ultraman or Super Sentai, and I want to make this mutated Minior that defends Earth from danger, a Pokemon that has an exposed core but also parts of its shell. So the first pass was a little too alien-like. This is just straight up a xenomorph. There are concepts that I will take, like the big arms and legs, but let's scrap this thing. The proportions of this one are definitely more Pokemon-like. I want to make sure it's friendly looking, or at least something that you can trust. I want part of its shell to be on, so it's not completely naked, but now it looks like a rubber hose character. You know, a character from 20s animation, but also a classic superhero with underwear on top, on top of their tights. I'm gonna lean into this. It's charming, making it look vintage. This is an old Pokemon after all. The rest is all up to the details now, just making sure everything works. I made an indent on its forehead that I thought would make it look less simple, but I left that out in the final version. Its color scheme will be cosmic. It has one form basically, but it's vibrant. You'll definitely like its shiny though. And there it is, the mythical Pokemon, Cometa, from Comet and Meta, meaning beyond, a rock psychic type. I think I've resolved to make it a separate species. It's not an evolution of Minior, but rather a super rare and ancient mutation of Minior. It has the power to summon meteors and can move at the speed of one. It flies through space looking for missions. In ancient times, this Pokemon would protect the Earth from any meteor. It was worshipped by a few ancient cultures, but at one point, this Pokemon became hysterical for a short period and accidentally unleashed a giant meteor that made a few species of Pokemon go extinct. In shame, it exiled itself and hasn't returned to Earth. It is said that it will only come back when the Earth needs it most. This Pokemon seeks redemption for its acts. It is also said that it sends Miniors as peace offerings. It wants to brighten up the night with the spectacle of falling Minior. Minior in space hold it in high regard and still treat it with respect. They offer up the most valuable space dust for Cometa to consume, so it's constantly changing colors. Here's its shiny. This Pokemon has a new ability called Asteroid Power, which boosts the power of all cosmically named moves, like Draco Meteor or its signature move, Comet Clobber, a base 90 rock move with 90% accuracy that sets up Stealth Rock if the move misses. It's both a physical and special move because it hits with the meteors that it summons and himself. I hope Cometa is appealing. I had some trouble with its alien head, but I'm definitely satisfied now. Hopefully it's a mythical that you'd actually be excited to receive. Now in my last type swap video, I made a ground dark type Mightyena that was inspired by Spotted Hyena. Now I want to give this Asonian form an evolution. It'll be a perfect counterpart to Obstagoon. I love Obstagoon, but I know some people thought it was too humanoid, so I want to make my evolution look a bit feral. It'll be inspired by gnolls, these hyena humanoids found in fantasy worlds like Dungeons & Dragons. I want to give it a weapon too, but I don't want it to look armored. It'll be a fairly wild hunter. We're basically going to start with the face of our Asonian Mightyena. It's weird now, but I'll refine it later. I know I want its tongue out, and for it to be completely bipedal with a big hunch. It's important that its legs remain animalistic. Some strong arms and claws, and it'll be holding a bone. The mouth was tough for some reason. I didn't want it to look like it was panting. I want it to look like its mouth is smiling and sadistic. Hopefully, it looks a bit more evil now. Now it's time for the cracked earth patterns that mimic the spots of a hyena. This was my favorite part because it's a concept that really works. It's based on the origin, but also makes it feel more like a ground type. A lot of gnolls have shoulder armor, so I was thinking about putting a skull there, but that would be overkill. I put some spiky, hardened mud there for now. I'm giving it some more bone aesthetics, just so its design is more cohesive. Now I made the design more cohesive in general. fixing the proportions and finishing up everything else, made sure the stomach wasn't empty, and filled it in with color. And there you have it. Starting at level 35 when leveled up in a sandstorm, while holding a thick club, Asonian Mightyena evolves into Barbariena. In the harshest of conditions, this Pokemon evolved through ingenuity and desperate hunger. This Pokemon is able to use tools and is constantly in search for the sharpest and sturdiest weapons. It uses the bones of its prey to attack and summon sand-based moves. Their drive to hunt is unrivaled. The alpha of the pack has the longest bone. They will constantly spar with each other to learn how to handle their weapon. If their weapon shatters, they will finish off enemies with their sharp claws covered in hardened earth. The caked mud on its body helps cool it down and gives extra damage protection. Asonian Mightyenas usually get the scraps that Barbariena leave. Therefore, most Asonian Mightyena are malnourished and desire a club of their own in order to evolve and become a top dog. Most wild Barbariena are actually female. Here's the Dark Shiny. It has the ability Intimidate and Moxie, with the hidden ability Scrappy. Thick Club also now affects Barbariena. God, I'm proud of this one too. I hope it fixes all the problems that fans might have with Obstagoon. I want to make sure that it looks monstrous and not humanoid, but I hope it still looks like a Pokemon. Now I'm gonna make a Shuckle evolution exclusive to my Asone region. We all know Shuckle turns berries into juice in its shell, but I want to make an evolution that is basically a fortress with many juice-launching hoses that protrude from all directions. It now fights back. Ikuzo! This one's simple. It's basically just two Shuckle shells stacked on top of each other, with more hose-like holes sticking out from every direction, and a little Shuckle head sticking out from the top. It's a bit angry because it's in the middle of a battle. Now I'm just refining it and giving the rock shell some texture. The colors are a bit more worn out than the colors on a Shuckle. This thing has been through war, and red spots on the cannons kind of remind me of bricks on an old fortress. And finally presenting Shuckastle. It evolves from Shuckle when given a special drink only found in the Asone region. This Pokemon is now completely fortified and can shoot various liquids from its cannons. Depending on the berries given to it, the acidity of juice it shoots differs. It can rapidly shoot or let out one big blast. It is highly accurate, precise, and long-ranged. Its limbs are constantly protected. In order to move, it uses hydraulics by blasting liquid out of its bottom blasters. As a finishing move, it will rapidly spin while shooting in all directions. It will only let its trusted trainer pet its head. Here's the shiny. Its ability is either bulletproof or a new ability called Artillery that boosts the power of ball and bomb moves, with the hidden ability Contrary. I hope this is a believable Shuckle evolution. It was kinda last minute, but such a concrete concept that I had to do it. I hope you like it, and leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos like these. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where I will post final full artwork of these from time to time, and check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Patreon, where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early, or click the join button for the same rewards. Bye!